Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Deep Blue Diaries. I'm Jessica Peters. Today, I'm going to tell you about an unlikely siren that has drawn many to their death, Egypt's Blue Hole. Think of Egypt's Blue Hole as a sort of Mount Everest of the sea. They both stand as two of the world's most alluring yet perilous natural wonders, each captivating adventurers drawn to the extremes of exploration. While Everest's status as the highest peak on Earth lures adventurers through lethal conditions, extreme altitudes, unpredictable weather, treacherous terrain, all in the hopes of reaching the infamous summit, the Blue Hole's steep drop entices divers with its crystal clear waters and the promise of swimming through its infamous arch, a submerged tunnel that beckons with mystery. However, beneath its serene surface lies a deceptive danger: treacherous depths, disorienting underwater landscapes, and the risk of nitrogen narcosis have claimed over 130 lives, making it one of the deadliest dive sites globally. And yet, looking at photos taken inside the Blue Hole by divers who've survived, it's not hard for me to understand the pull. To really appreciate why so many divers get pulled into her lethal depths, let me paint you a picture. Descending into her depths is like entering a hidden realm sculpted by nature's artistry. As you begin your dive, the sun-drenched surface waters shimmer a brilliant sapphire hue, their clarity revealing a kaleidoscope of vibrant marine life darting amongst coral formations. At around 170 feet below the surface, the entrance to the arch emerges. It's an unimaginably beautiful gateway carved into the ancient coral reef. The arch itself is an expansive cathedral-like tunnel. It'll leave you lost for words. Even looking at the photos of the arch, I feel awestruck. It's somehow massive and ethereal at the same time. It's a haunting reminder of just how ancient our world is, in a way that commands reverence. It almost feels like a religious experience, resembling the ornate pillars of a submerged temple. The corals are tinged with hues of amber and rose. Their textures are rich and varied. The water here takes on a deeper, more intense shade of indigo, and as you approach it, the ambient lighting softens, casting a gentle glow. Just looking at pictures of it feels suspended in time, its beauty both subtle and grand, a fusion of intricate details and monumental scale. It almost feels sacred, as if you've been granted passage into a secret sanctuary hidden beneath the waves. And while photographs capture the arch's magnificence, I can't imagine the added dimension brought by being enveloped in its ambiance. And while I don't plan on trying my luck to see it in person anytime soon, I have to admit, I can understand the allure of wanting a chance to see what I can only imagine feels like a mystical experience. But like all siren songs, it carries a warning that many choose to ignore. At over 300 feet deep, she's claimed the lives of many seeking the thrill of exploration. Among those drawn to the Blue Hole was Yuri Lipsky, a 22-year-old Russian diving instructor with a passion for the deep. Yuri was no novice. He'd accumulated over 200 dives and was well versed in the challenges of underwater exploration. On a warm April morning in 2000, Yuri prepared for what he thought would be another routine dive. Clad in his wetsuit and equipped with a helmet-mounted camera, he intended to capture the mesmerizing beauty of the Blue Hole to share with the world. As he descended, the sunlight filtered through the air, creating a kaleidoscope of colors that danced around him. Schools of brightly colored fish darted past, and the coral walls were alive with marine life. Yuri's camera captured it all: the breathtaking scenery, the tranquility, the sense of being in another world. But as he ventured deeper, subtle signs of danger began to emerge. At around 100 feet deep, Yuri should have performed a safety check, monitoring his depth and air supply. However, captivated by the surroundings and perhaps overconfident in his abilities, he continued his descent. The phenomenon known as nitrogen narcosis, often referred to as raptures of the deep, began to take hold. This condition affects divers at depths greater than 30 meters, impairing judgment and motor skills due to increased nitrogen levels in the bloodstream. Unaware of his deteriorating state, Yuri pressed on. His breathing became labored, and the once vibrant colors around him started to fade. At 180 feet, he passed the recommended recreational dive limit. The entrance to the arch, a submerged tunnel connecting the blue hole to the open sea, lay below him. Many divers aim to pass through the arch, a risky endeavor even for the most experienced technical divers with specialized equipment. Yuri, however, was equipped only with standard diving gear. Descending past 295 feet, the effects of nitrogen narcosis intensified. Disoriented and struggling, Yuri's camera recorded his frantic moments. His breaths grew rapid and shallow. Bubbles escaped chaotically from his regulator. At 377 feet, he reached the seabed. The once serene environment had transformed into a silent abyss. The footage recovered from Yuri's camera later revealed his final moments, a haunting testament to the unforgiving nature of the deep. His attempt to inflate his buoyancy compensator failed, and without the physical capability to ascend, he remained tethered to the depths. Yuri Lipsky perished that day, becoming one of the numerous divers who lost their lives in the blue hole. Yuri's story became a stark reminder of the perils hidden beneath the surface, but he was not alone in underestimating the dangers of the blue hole. The allure of the arch had claimed countless lives, each with their own tale of ambition, miscalculation, and tragedy. Tariq Omar is an Egyptian diver known as the Bone Collector. He's dedicated his life to recovering the bodies of divers who meet their fate in the blue hole. He does it voluntarily and says he's lost count of how many bodies he's recovered over the years. His intimate knowledge of the site and its dangers has made him a guardian of sorts. Tariq often speaks of the call of the depth, a metaphor for the irresistible urge some divers feel to push beyond safe limits. In 1997, a group of 3 divers from South Africa arrived in Dahab, eager to conquer the arch. They were experienced but unfamiliar with the unique challenges posed by the blue hole. Despite warnings from local instructors, they decided to attempt the dive without proper technical gear. Their plan was simple, yet fatally flawed. Descend quickly, pass the arch, and ascend on the other side. As they descended, the first diver began to feel the effects of nitrogen narcosis at about 229 feet. Disoriented, he signaled to abort the dive, but his companions, driven by determination, pressed on. At around 330 feet, the second diver experienced equipment failure. Panic set in, and in his confusion, he accidentally dropped his weight belt, causing a rapid and uncontrolled ascent. A potentially deadly situation due to the risk of decompression sickness. The third diver, now alone and deep within the arch, realized the gravity of their predicament. With limited air supply and impaired faculties, he attempted to turn back but became disoriented in the labyrinthine tunnel. His body was later recovered by Tariq Omar, who noted that the diver's depth gauge read 393 feet, well beyond safe limits. These tragedies highlight a recurring theme: the underestimation of the blue hole's dangers. Many divers fail to recognize that the site's beauty masks lethal hazards. The arch, in particular, is deceptive. At 183 feet, its entrance seems accessible, but the tunnel itself is over 85 feet long and lays at depths exceeding 328 feet in some places. Local dive instructors have taken it upon themselves to educate newcomers about the site's dangers. With each death, briefings become more detailed, emphasizing the importance of adhering to depth limits and the risks of nitrogen narcosis and decompression sickness. Yet, despite these efforts, the blue hole continues to claim lives. The last diver to be claimed by Egypt's blue hole is Stephen Keenan, an Irish free diver whose passion and expertise had earned him renown in the global diving community. On a windy Saturday on July 17th, Alicia Zacchini, an accomplished Italian freediver known for her record-breaking dives, was preparing to attempt a challenging dive through the arch of the blue hole. Stephen Keenan was to be her safety diver. His task was to provide support in case of any complications during the dive, ensuring Alicia's safe passage through the arch and back to the surface. Both divers had trained extensively for this day. When Alicia began her descent, Stephen followed, positioning himself strategically to monitor her progress. The 20-mile-per-hour winds were producing currents that made for poor visibility. Nonetheless, Alicia moved with grace and precision, her form streamlined as she approached the arch. Passing through the arch has been described as a surreal experience, a blend of darkness and light as the tunnel guides divers from the enclosed blue hole to the vast expanse of the open sea. Alicia successfully navigated the arch's length, and upon exiting, she began her ascent along the reef's outer wall. Stephen was nearby, vigilant and ready to assist if needed. However, as they ascended, something went awry. Because of the winds, Alicia deviated slightly from the planned route, surfacing away from the intended point. Recognizing this, Stephen acted swiftly. Despite the increasing physical demands of the ascent and the toll of being at depth, he redirected to guide her back on course. In doing so, he extended himself beyond his planned limits. In the critical moments that followed, Stephen signaled Alicia to ensure she was okay. Assured of her condition, he began his own ascent. But the strain of the dive had taken its toll. At around 100 feet below the surface, Stephen lost consciousness, an occurrence known in free diving as shallow water blackout, caused by a lack of oxygen to the brain during ascent. His body was found floating face down, and despite best efforts, rescuers were unable to revive him. Psychologists studying the phenomenon of people embarking upon risky adventures point to the concept of optimism bias, the belief that negative events are more likely to happen to others than oneself. In the context of diving, this meant that individuals acknowledged the risks but believed they were skilled enough to avoid them. Coupled with the intoxicating effects of nitrogen narcosis, divers often find themselves in perilous situations without fully comprehending the danger. Technological advancements also play a role. The advent of more sophisticated diving equipment gives a false sense of security to some divers. Rebreathers, mixed gas systems, and advanced dive computers expand the possibilities of exploration, but require specialized training. Misuse or misunderstanding of this technology can and does lead to fatal outcomes. In response to the mounting fatalities, the Egyptian authorities and local diving organizations have implemented stricter regulations. Certain areas are designated off-limits to recreational divers. Signage warning of the dangers is prominently displayed. Dive centers emphasize the importance of following dive plans and conducting proper safety stops during ascents to allow for nitrogen off-gassing. Despite these measures, the allure of the blue hole persists. For some, it represents the ultimate challenge, a rite of passage in the diving world. Stories of those who successfully navigate the arch fuel the desire in others to attempt the same feat. The line between bravery and recklessness blurs, often with tragic results. Families of those lost often visit Dahab, seeking closure or perhaps a connection to the place that drew their loved ones. They found a community that, while aware of its dark history, celebrates the lives of those who share a passion for the underwater world. Memorial dives have been organized as celebrations of life and the beauty that their loved ones sought. The future of diving in Dahab holds promise. With the advancements in training, technology, and a collective commitment to safety, the hope is that past tragedies won't be repeated. For Yuri Lipsky and others who ventured into the depths and never returned, their stories resonate as powerful reminders. They urge us to appreciate the beauty of the natural world while acknowledging its power. They challenge us to pursue our passions with wisdom and humility. And perhaps most important, they remind us that beneath the surface, whether the sea or of our own ambitions, there lies a world that demands both respect and reverence. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jess. A complete list of sources for today's story can be found in the show notes. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Snapchat at JessthePrequelDoesMiami, or searching Miami Cougar, or find the links in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch up next time for more stories of the deep on Deep Blue Diaries.